Hello, friends, and welcome to our SBT Sutra Studies class. My name is Venerable Tarpa. Before we begin today's class, let's take a moment to appreciate our kind community gathered here today. Today, I feel fortunate to sit as a member of this kind community in the safety and security of like-minded friends, sharing this present moment with others dedicated to the cultivation of goodness. Today, I'm grateful for the direction and support that this community provides, a community worthy of my time and commitment, a community where my efforts have meaning, purpose, and are appreciated. Today, I'm thankful for this community of awakening, a place to gain the knowledge and skills to improve my life, a family, a home, and a sanctuary for all of us seeking refuge from the storm. And let's remember, as conscientious practitioners, we must recognize our responsibility to the world, to strive to live skillfully while helping others to do the same, to strive to live in balance and harmony with nature and others, to strive to gain mastery over our minds and embody our true benevolent nature, to expand our hearts and minds, transcending our shared human limitations, to not intentionally harm sentient life or our planet, to maturely accept and embrace the reality of our situation while striving to improve it. Again, welcome back to our SBT Sutra Studies class. We are currently examining the Dhammapada. Today, we will be covering chapter 20, entitled The Path. And I thought this was a very exciting chapter. So let's begin. We got some wonderful readers here today. And let me get my things in place. Pema, would you like to start? And I think we're going to read the first four, if that's okay with you, Miss Pema. Starting right here.
I need to see it.
Oh, I'm not sharing it. I'm sorry. I put it up on my screen, but I didn't share it with all of you. Now I think we're in good shape.
Yeah. All right, so you want me to read?
The first four, yeah.
Okay. All right, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Best among paths is the Eightfold Path. Best among truths are the truths in 4 lines. Best of all dharmas is freedom from desire. Best among two-footed beings is the one with vision. This is the only path that leads to pure vision. There is no other. Enter it, and on this path you will confound the demon Mara. Enter this path, and you will bring an end to sorrow. This is the path that I described, having completely understood the basis of affliction. The Tathagatas merely show the way. You must make the effort. Through meditation and equanimity, you free yourself from the bonds of Mara.
Thank you. And it's pronounced Tathagata, I think. And Yoli, Miss Nima, would you like to read 4 of these? 273 through 276?
Sure. Of all the paths, the Eightfold Path is the best. Of all the truths, the 4 noble truths are the best. Of all things, passionless is the best. Of men, the seeing one, the Buddha is the best. This is the only path. There is none other. Where am I? Okay. This is the only path. There is none other for the purification of insight. Tread this path and you will bewilder Mara. Walking upon this path, you will make an end of suffering. Having discovered how to pull out the thorn of lust, I make known the path. You yourselves must strive. The Buddhas only point the way. Those meditative ones who tread the path are released from the bonds of Mara.
Not bad for a drugged up lady. Good job there. And one second, I'm having a technical problem. Jennifer, can you read the first four?
Sure. The best of the path is the Eightfold Path. The best of the truths, the Four Noble Truths. The best of qualities is dispassion, and the best among gods and humans is the one with eyes to see. This is the path for purifying one's vision. There is no other. Follow it. You will bewilder Mara. Follow it. You will put an end to suffering. This is the path I have proclaimed, having pulled out the arrows. It is up to you. It is up to you to make strong effort.
Tathagatas.
Tathagatas to merely tell you how. Following the path, those absorbed in meditation will be freed from Mara's bonds.
We have some excellent readers today. Thank you. I thought Gilles Franzels was the clearest of all of these. It's really interesting to read them all, but this chapter, I think I relied mostly on Gilles Franzels. It was very clear. So I'll just go through some of these. Again, they're talking about the Eightfold Path, which is the last of the Four Noble Truths, is the best path. And I should have been prepared for this. What do we have? We have right view, right thought, right action, right speech, right livelihood, right concentration, and right mindfulness and right concentration. I couldn't believe I popped that off. And that's so they claim that that's the best of all the paths. The Four Noble Truths are the best of all the truths, and that is the cause of suffering, or that is the suffering, the cause of suffering, nirvana, and the cause of nirvana, the Eightfold Path. And they talk about dispassion here, and we have a couple different words for the idea of dispassion. And so I think our first text is just calling it desire. I thought we had another one as well. Buddha Rakita is also calling it dispassion. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was this idea of passion generally. And I often talk about, in passion in the West is not seen as a negative quality as it seems to be in Buddhism. They're often talking about becoming passionless. But in the West, we often use the word differently, and this might just be translation issues. But in the West, we talk about being passionate in our Dharma practice, right? Being passionate in art and music, being a passionate parent, being a passionate chef in the kitchen. So we tend to use the word as kind of enthusiasm, where I think in Buddhism, passion is seen more of a grasping and attachment to things. But then I was contemplating it more as I was reading it through this. And I was wondering, quite possibly within Buddhism, of just all aspects of passion are seen as quite possibly non-virtuous, or at least a form of attachment. Because if you think about it, say that you're passionate about your gardening. What are we actually saying about that quality of passion? It means that, we're putting that before all of the things, right? There is this nutty obsession, right? Passion is kind of an obsession. You think about artists being passionate, and oftentimes they paint a picture of artists being kind of lacking patience, right? And being quite difficult to be around, this artist temperament, right? So when we think about a great bodhisattva, and they're so calm through all their practices, and I was thinking, I can't quite imagine them being like really passionate about things. I think even the passion that we considered virtuous, right? They would just have no need for it. You don't have to have passion to be a great parent. You don't need to have passion to be a great musician. It's a quality of the of how you go about it, right? It's the quality of the action itself. A passionate artist, we're talking about the style in which they work. We're not talking about the end result of the painting, are we? Other than sometimes when we say passionate artist, it kind of evokes that idea of a great artist deep in work. But this is more about the habit. And I don't see a bodhisattva or a great practitioner as having that neurotic obsession towards anything they do. The bodhisattva doesn't do that. We talked about the intention of the bodhisattva in our other classes. We talked about that there's not that linear intention where I'll do this and then this will happen and this will happen. It's not thought out. A bodhisattva simply abides in stillness, and when things need to happen, they take care of it, right? Spontaneously. That does not sound like passion to me. Does it sound like passion to you? So I'm starting to have different thoughts on the idea. And though in ordinary life, there are aspects of passion that aren't non-virtuous, being passionate in your cooking or your work, being passionate teacher. I think that I'm passionate in my work, but does a real advanced bodhisattva need that? And I would say that the question is no. Okay, I wanted to share that with everybody. And then they say the best of two-legged beings is the Buddha, which is wonderful, right? Here, the best among gods and humans is the one with eyes to see. And in the others, they talked about vision, and they talk about insight. What they're really relating to is right view, right? So the best of paths is the Eightfold Path, the best of truths, the Four Noble Truths, the best of qualities is dispassionedness, which I think contentment could be used, right? And then the best quality is this of right view, of understanding the true nature of ourselves and reality. So then they go and talking about, well, this Buddhist path is the one and only path to achieve right view. Buddhists believe that, but I don't know if it's necessarily true. We believe that it is. And then by developing right view, Mara, who is not a deity, but instead represents our own afflicted behavior and our afflicted minds and emotions. So when you have right view, then that other crazy side of us that's neurotic and running around and causing troubles, it doesn't know what to do with it, right? There's no place for it. And then this puts an end to our suffering and pulls out all of the arrows. So in the scriptures, often they're talking about arrows as attributed to suffering, pain and suffering. So by developing right view, all of our pain and suffering is diminished. But it's up to us to make strong efforts. Tathagata is a word for the Buddha, or Buddhas. So the Buddha in this states that we have to make strong efforts because Buddhas can only show the way. I think this is probably the most important verse in this whole chapter. It's one that I often keep sharing, that in some Buddhist traditions, especially the Mahayana, there's this thought that just being around holy beings and stuff is enough, and their blessing can somehow elevate your practice. But the Buddha is very clear. All they can do is teach. It's up to you to have some strong effort and to work in your practice. And here they talk about meditation in particular, to free yourself from samsara. Oh, that was a good one. Let's move on. We have 3 here. Pema, would you like to read these 3?
Sure. All conditioned things are impermanent. When you truly comprehend this, you will no longer be afflicted by suffering. This is the path of purity. All conditioned things are suffering. When you truly comprehend this, you will no longer be afflicted by suffering. This is the path of purity.
One more.
All elements of conditioned things are selfless. When you truly comprehend this, you will no longer be afflicted by suffering. This is the path of purity.
Oh, you read that beautifully. Thank you. Yoli, would you like to read 277, 78, and 79?
All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purification. All conditioned things are unsatisfactory. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purification. All things are not self. When one sees this wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purification.
Oh, thank you. That was lovely. And Jennifer, 277, 78, and 79. We start at the top of this page here. The bottom
All
of the
created,
page.
sorry. All created things are impermanent. Seeing this with insight, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity. All created things are suffering. Seeing this with insight, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity. All things are not self. Seeing this with insight, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity.
Thank you. I was intrigued by the word disenchanted by suffering. But I wonder if it's one becomes disenchanted with unenlightenment, right? Which is suffering itself. These three make up an important aspect in Buddhism. These three in Theravada are considered the three universal truths. They also call them the three characteristics or the three marks of existence. They're one of the first aspects that we learn in Buddhism, that these are these first three universal truths of impermanence, of suffering, and of selflessness. And in the Mahayana, they add one more to it, which is nirvana is true peace. And then that becomes the four hallmarks of Buddhism, or it's called the four seals. When we talk about compound phenomena, what we're talking about is phenomena that's created, phenomena that arises from causes and conditions. And sometimes they refer to it as composite phenomena. Composite meaning it has many parts. So when we talk about compound phenomena, which is almost all phenomena that you can possibly think of, because we talked about this before, that all phenomena is made up from other phenomena. We're all made up of pieces, parts, right? And so almost all phenomena is compounded. There's only a few, and the few things that aren't are really more conceptual phenomena. They're not actual phenomena in life itself, in the world itself. And they talk about this, first of all, impermanence. So we talked about that before, that all things are in a state of change. Nothing is permanent, nothing is static. Everything in life is an aspect of a dynamic process in constant change, including ourselves. And when you see that, when you develop right view, you become disenchanted with the world, the unenlightened world, right? And they call this the path of purity. The second one is all created things are suffering, or all conditional things are suffering. And seeing this with insight, you become disenchanted, okay? And the last one is non-self. So not self is a bit of a difficult term to understand. It has a lot to do with the first of impermanent. The idea of non-self is that all things are made up of many other things. They call it dependent origination. You could just call it interdependence. That things aren't things in themselves. All the things in our world are collections of other things. And there is no essential essence to things that makes them that thing, right? If you take a book and we make a list of all the pieces, parts of a book, and what do we have? We have the cover, right? What else do we have? Emma? Some paper, right? A couple hundred sheets of paper. We have some ink,
The binding.
right? We have some binding that holds it all together, right? We have a conceptual term, book. That's a real thing. The name of it we have. We have a function. You know, we can get into the conceptual. But if you notice, when we look at that list, there is no one thing that is actually the book. There's no essential aspect that is book. Even the title, the conceptual title book, isn't book on its own, is it? It just points to a physical object. So we can set that aside, right? The covers, if you have two covers, you don't have a book. If you have 100 sheets of paper, you don't have a book. If you have a jar of ink, you don't have a book. If you have binding, you don't have the book. Well, where is book? Book exists in independence upon those things. So in this way, we would say book is empty of self-existence. There is no central aspect that is book. And all things in reality exist in the same way. They're all combinations of other things, right? That's the idea of not self. Okay. Let's get back to our reading. Pema, would you like to read 280? We got just a couple miscellaneous ones that are kind of fun here.
Okay. Not getting up when it is time to rise, lazy though young and strong, confused and lackadaisical, how can the indolent find the path of the wise?
Sound like anybody you know? Don't say me. I'm a hard worker. And Yoli, would you like to read 280?
The idler who does not exert himself when he should, who though young and strong is full of sloth, with a mind full of vain thoughts, such an indolent man does not find the path to wisdom.
Thank you. Jennifer, 280?
Inactive when one should be active, lazy though young and strong, disheartened in one's resolves, such an indolent, lethargic person does not find the path of insight.
Oh, good job at the vocabulary. Those who sit around in their underwear watching TV and eating Cheetos and cereal will never awaken to the true nature of reality. Yeah, I don't think I need much commentary with that one. It reminds me of my brother. My brother was so lazy. All he ever did was sit and watch television. Pam, would you like to read 281?
Guard your speech and use your mind well. Keep your body from unvirtuous action. In purifying these three paths of action, you rely on the path which was taught by the Rishi.
By the Rishi. That's an Indian word for guru. And Nima, would you like to read 281?
Let a man be watchful of speech, well controlled in mind, and not commit evil in bodily action. Let him purify these three courses of action and win the path made known by the great sage.
Thank you. That was lovely. And Jennifer, 281.
Watchful in speech and well restrained in mind. Do nothing unskillful with your body. Purify these three courses of action. Fulfill the path taught by the sages.
And so the rishis, the sages, they're talking about the Buddhas here. And generally they talk about guard your body, speech, and mind. They're always talking in Buddhism about the three doors: body, speech, and mind. Don't do anything naughty with the body, speech, and mind. Thank you. Pema, would you like to read two? If anybody would like to comment on anything we're talking about and sharing, you can please just go ahead and interrupt us.
Actually, Ron had said that was a nice summary of nirvana.
Ah, yeah, very good. Thank you, Ron. Let's read these one at a time. They're kind of weird. 282, Pema.
Wonderful qualities arise from yoga, but they dwindle if you cease your practice. There is progress and there is loss. Understanding both of these, increase what is truly positive and enter into certainty.
And yoga here is practice, just generally practice. Yoli 282.
Wisdom springs from meditation. Without meditation, wisdom wanes. Having known these two paths of progress and decline, let a man so conduct himself that his wisdom may increase.
And ladies too. Jennifer 282.
Wisdom arises from spiritual practice. Without practice, it decays. Knowing this two-way path for gain and loss, conduct yourself so that wisdom grows.
Yeah, so this is very clear, right? Be mindful that if you give up your practice, if you get a little bit lazy, that you can lose the wisdom and the awakening that you've attained so far. Be diligent and protect your virtue. That's often how they talk about it in Buddhism, is about protecting your virtue. Now, 283 is the weirdest one I've seen so far in the whole Dhammapada, and Pema will share it with us.
Cut down the tree, destroy the whole forest. Forest danger arises. If you cut away the trees and the roots, 0 monks, you will pass from sorrow.
And I think it's O monks. It's kind of an OH, maybe. Yeah. No problem. And Yoli, would you like to read 283?
Cut down the tree, lust, but not the tree. From the forest springs fear. Having cut down the forest and the underbrush, desire, be passionless, O monks.
Okay. And Jen, up at the bottom of the page here.
Monks be deforested of desire.
Oh, at the bottom, bottom of,
Yeah,
up here.
sorry. Cut down the forest of desire, not real trees. From the forest of desire, fear is born. Having cut down both the forest and the underbush, monks be deforested of desire.
Yeah, so isn't this one really weird? And I almost just didn't even want to comment on it at all. It just seemed, it kind of, and then the first one seemed so sexist. But anyways, it's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to comment on it. It's just kind of silly. The one thing that was interesting is the idea that it does point out that it's our desire, it's our attachment to desire that is what we really need to cut down. The desire itself, to rid ourselves completely of desire would be unhealthy. It's our attachment and grasping to desire. That's what that verse is kind of implying. Pilla?
I know you didn't want to comment, but
I don't mind.
to me, it seems like the forest represents like pretty much you're surrounded by different things that can be desired. And to cut that down to, like get rid of, I don't know. It was pretty cool for me. I like.
Cool. Yeah, it paints an interesting picture. I think even in the notes, Gil Fransdale was like, I'm not quite sure what to make of this verse. Thank you. Pema, would you like to read 284?
As long as a man is attached to a woman, his smallest desire, if not destroyed right away, will bind him completely, like a suckling calf to its mother.
It's terrible. Yoli 284.
For so long as the underbrush of desire, even the most subtle of a man towards a woman, is not cut down, his mind is in bondage, like the sucking calf to its mother.
And Jen 284.
As long as even the slightest underbrush of desire between man and woman is not cut away, for that long the mind is bound, like a suckling calf to its mother.
Thank you. There's an image that comes to mind for me, and maybe you know this as well. Maybe someone you know that's in a relationship where either person is kind of like that suckling calf in the relationship, right? And they just follow the other one, and they're just wanting their approval and their attention. There are a lot of people that kind of have that. But the idea of the verses is that even these small desires, if not checked, they really grow. This is true in my practice, that I find that if I give into things in a little way, it really starts to open up the floodgate, and it makes it harder to change them. When you become a monastic, they kind of give us a talk about that, and they say that once you break a vow, it becomes really easy to break again. But if you haven't broken the vows, they really stay strong. So I think that there's a lot of truth to that, and I think it just buys into habits. Once you start to do something, like if I have a candy bar at nighttime, sure enough, the next night I'm going to want another one. We're really creatures of habits. Yeah. I don't like how sexist that one was. Karma, Pema, 285, please.
Cut away the self you hold so dear, as you would a faded autumn lotus. Earnestly take up this path of peace, the passage from sorrow as taught by the Buddha.
Beautifully read. Yoli, 285.
Cut off your affection in the manner of a woman. I was going to say.
Thank you.
Gender. Cut off your affection in the manner of a woman plucks with her hand an autumn lotus. Cultivate only the path to peace, nibbana, as made known by the Exalted One.
Beautifully read. And Jennifer, right here, 285.
Destroy attachment to self as you could an autumn lily in your fist. Cultivate the path to peace, the nirvana taught by the well-gone one.
Thank you. In the second text, I thought it was really strange. Cut off your affection in the matter of a man plucking a flower. That's very strange. Gil Fransdale has a nice version. So we talk about attachment to self, destroy the attachment to self. Here, we're talking about conceit. We're talking about self-importance, egocentricity. We're talking about narcissism. This is what we mean by attachment to the self. We had it this week in our mind training program, right? The cherishing oneself, right? Me, I'm important. How dare they say that to me? Do they know who I am? This whole thing of attachment to identity, right? Self in Buddhism, I think it's the easiest way to understand it. It's identity. It's that mental construct of who and what you are, right? And of course, identity doesn't really have like a physical aspect to it. It is just mentally created, but it's also created within our culture. Your mommy and daddy helped you first put into to play your identity, right? They gave you a name, they taught you how to address to that name, and then your surroundings, school, friends. We've always been working on this identity of who and what we are, and trying to figure out exactly what that identity is. But the problem is when we get a bit too attached to that identity, that's where most of our real suffering comes from. We suffer in life, but the most amount of suffering we have is related to that. How dare they call me that name? How dare they not respect me? How dare they not give me the job, right? It's all about me. She doesn't love me. This person doesn't like me. We're so obsessed with ourselves, and so that's what they talk about. But here it's kind of a pretty strong message. It's not about destroying it like you would a flower in your fist, just crushing it. And I don't like that visualization of it. I don't think that kind of aggression ever works with working with our qualities. Better through right view to understand the nature of self, and we gently transcend it. That's the best way to go about that. But that is the path of peace. When you transcend self, you're just in another world. And in some ways, you could see transcending self as being nirvana itself. Yeah. Thank you. Pema, would you like to read 286?
Here I will stay in the summer, in the winter, as well as the spring. So thinks the fool, he never dreams that obstacles may rise before him.
Read the next one as well.
Death approaches and sweeps away the man attached to his children and cattle. Death approaches and takes hold of him in the same way a raging river carries off a sleeping village.
Oh, that's quite an image, isn't it? And Yoli, 286 and 287.
Here shall I live during the rains, here in the winter and summer. Thus thinks the fool. He does not realize the danger that death might intervene. As a great flood carries away a sleeping village, so death seizes and carries away the man with a clinging mind, doting on his children and cattle.
Thank you. Jennifer, would you like to read it? They're combined here, 286, 287.
Here I'll live during the rainy season, and here during the winter and summer. So the fool ponders, unaware of danger, intoxicated by children and cattle. That addict is swept away by death, as a sleeping village is by a flood.
Thank you. And clearly what they're talking about here is those who become too content in their place in the world. We tend to lose track of the idea that, like when we were practicing our awakening through appreciation, the uncertainty of life, that at any time, everything can be swept away. At any time, death can come, whether for us or for our loved ones. But those people that don't keep that in mind, that things can change in an instant, they often suffer terribly at the hands of that. Just like a sleeping village taken away by a great flood. Isn't that a scary image, huh? Imagine everybody's sleeping in their little grass huts, and just a big water comes and just takes the whole village away. Oh. And we have two last ones here. Pamela, would you like to read 288 and 289?
Your children are no haven, nor are your parents or kin. Once under the sway of death, not even your dearest friends can help you. Those who are wise, those endowed with restraint and good conduct, understand this powerful message of death and quickly clear the path to nirvana.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Yoli, the last two, 288 and 289.
For her who is assailed by death, there is no protection by kingswomen. None there are to save her. Her sons, her father, no sons, no father, no relatives. Realizing this fact, let the wise woman, restrained by morality, hasten to clear the path leading to nirvana.
That was lovely. And Jen, the last two here.
Children, parents, and relatives are not a protection. from someone's seeds by death. Relatives are no protection. Knowing this, the wise person, restrained by virtue, should quickly clear the path to nirvana.
Thank you. It seems a little bit like it's the Buddha's talking to lay people and saying, don't be too caught up in lay existence of raising your kids and everything else. At some point, you're going to die. Now, I don't think he's trying to convince them to be monastics. I think he's just trying to remind them, make some time for practice, because when death comes a knocking, you need to be prepared, right? You need to clear that way for nirvana. Ah, that was great. What did you guys think?
I kind of
Was it-
took this one as, I don't know if I read it, but the way I looked at it was, it's easy to use your children, your parents, your relatives, other things as an excuse for not practicing. But the practice requires that you be the one that practice. And so I looked at it as we are responsible for our own awakening. We can always use other things to, I always have excuses, but we are the one who are responsible for our own awakening.
That's a beautiful interpretation. I agree with that. Quite lovely. Does anybody have any questions, insights, or thoughts on this chapter?
I really enjoyed this chapter because throughout the chapter, it really gave lots of evidence for using the Eightfold Path. I mean, right view and effort and speech and mindfulness is just all over the passages, as well as giving support for the Four Noble Truths. So for me, this was a very important chapter. I really enjoyed this one a lot.
Yeah, I like the imagery of this chapter, except for that one weird verse about the trees being lust and cut down the forest, but not the trees. So I guess that the cut down the forest is the attachment, and the trees themselves are desire. So cut down everything, but leave the trees alone.
Yeah.
Choki, are you stretching or asking a? That's good. I thought this was a really good verse chapter, bringing up a lot. It was cool that they talked about the three universal truths. Ah, lovely. Okay, how about if I finish up here? Is there no more questions? So in conclusion, the best path is the Eightfold Path. The best truth is the Four Noble Truth. Best of all qualities is the freedom from grasping. Best among beings is the one who possesses right view. The Buddhist path is the only path that leads to right view, the purification of our perspective, our view. The Buddhist path is aimed at purifying our view, by which we transcend our suffering. But the Buddha can only teach the way. Only you, through diligent practice, can awaken yourself. All compounded or conditioned phenomena are impermanent, arising from causes and conditions. All compounded and conditional phenomena are the nature of suffering and unsatisfactory. All phenomena are selfless, lacking any essential essence. Through understanding this, we are able to begin to transcend our afflictions and suffering. The Buddhist path is not for the lazy or lethargic. Through guarding and purifying our actions of body, speech, and mind, we walk the path of the Buddhas. Consistent diligence is essential in achieving our spiritual aim and awakening. Through working to transcend your grasping at desire, we begin to awaken. Even the slightest grasping to desire binds us to the world of suffering. This includes grasping at the self, which is a form of narcissism and conceit. Never lose sight of the impermanent and changing nature of the world and how what we hold dear can be swept away at any moment. The Buddha claimed that death was his greatest teacher, that through understanding the impermanent changing nature of the world, we come to terms with life. Understanding death motivates us to apply ourselves, to flourish in life and to awaken. Remember that the Sutra teachings are meant as practice instructions. So in order to get the greatest benefit, we need to engage fully with them, utilizing the three great objectives of study, contemplation, and meditation. Your work this week is to discover how these teachings apply to your daily life, transforming them from words on a page into living Dharma. Next week, we'll be moving on to chapter 21 of the Dhammapada, entitled Miscellaneous. Strange chapter. And remember, there's only 26 chapters in the Dhammapada, so we are winding up. We have 26 more weeks. And I think it's getting better and better for me. I'm really enjoying it. And so with that said, let's end today's class with our altruistic affirmation. May all be healthy, may all be prosperous, may all be well, may all be present, free of past regret and future worry. May all abide in constant appreciation, which is a source of great joy and contentment. May all realize the true nature of reality, the true nature of themselves in reality, which is awakening. Thanks everybody for coming. Remember that the SPT community was created for one purpose and one purpose only, to support you, the practitioner. So tomorrow is Sunday. We're going to be having an open teaching on evaluating our place in the universe. So it's going to be a great class. I hope everybody can make it. Thanks for coming. Thanks to all of our readers. You did a great job. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Bye-bye.